Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. So, you guys gave us a ton of material on the Indian IT job market.
Yeah, a ton.
And honestly, this goes way deeper than just like surface level stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This is like we're backstage, we're getting like the VIP access from people who are actually out there recruiting at Google, at IBM.
Right.
And then also from developers who've been in the trenches, both at startups and at, the big companies.
It's like having that, that inside scoop, that crystal ball almost, that lets us see not just what jobs are out there, but like what skills you actually need to stand out.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of people vying for these positions.
Okay, so let's actually like set the stage here for people who maybe haven't had a chance to dive into all these sources.
Okay.
The Career Talk video you sent, it gets real, right? Like it's not sugarcoating things. Automation is here.
It's here.
It's impacting jobs, but this isn't like the robots are taking over everyone. Panic.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right. It's like it's evolving.
Well, it's like the next step in the whole process, really.
Okay, so how would you characterize how it's impacting like the Indian IT market specifically? Because we always hear about outsourcing, right? Like that's the thing.
Right. And that was all based on, like you said, like lower cost basic tasks. That's shrinking rapidly.
Okay.
Like companies now, they're looking for people who can solve problems they can't solve.
Right.
So they need those very niche, very specific skills.
It's not just knowing how to code.
Right. No,
It's like, what is, you almost have to think of it as like, okay, if the IT world is like this massive ocean, you got to be a big fish in a small little pond.
Exactly.
Right. What's that thing that you're amazing at that nobody else is?
Right.
That's your golden ticket.
And you need to be able to prove it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just saying I'm an expert in Python on your resume.
Right. Everyone's saying that.
Everyone and their mom is saying that.
You got to show it.
Yes. And this is where those side projects, those little things you're doing, your GitHub.
Oh, it's so true.
This is how you prove it, because anyone can say anything on a resume.
And I feel like a lot of people, they almost treat it as like a checkbox exercise, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I did this check, I did that check.
Yeah.
But it's not about that. It's about like the passion projects, the things that you're doing that are actually like showing what you're capable of.
And what you're passionate about, because people can sniff out BS a mile away.
Right. Especially when you get into those higher level interviews, right? They can tell if you're just like regurgitating what you read on, some blog post versus you actually like building something.
Exactly.
And speaking of showing what you're capable of, I feel like, and maybe I'm biased because I'm online all the time, but LinkedIn.
Right.
We've got to talk about LinkedIn.
I agree.
It's so key. And a lot of people, I think they treat it as like, oh, it's this chore. I got to,
add a bunch of people you don't know.
Yeah, like it's my Rolodex, like who cares?
Right.
But Manohar, that IBM developer you shared,
yes.
He was very adamant that it's not just about connections. It's about
building a brand. It's your online presence.
Yeah, it's like a living resume.
Exactly.
It's not just a static PDF that you update every 2 years.
Exactly. You're engaging, you're talking to people, you're liking things, you're commenting, you're part of the conversation.
You're showing that you're actually, like in the game, you're playing the game.
Exactly. You're not just watching from the sidelines.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of like these big picture shifts, automation, this need for like specialization.
Right.
But let's talk about something that I think a lot of people, especially in the IT world in India, struggle with, which is like, okay, do I go the startup route or do I go like the big, multinational corporation route?
Right. The age-old question.
It's like the eternal debate, And we've got Ann Schumann, that data engineer who you shared his story. He's like the poster child for like the startup life chose me, right?
Yeah.
He turned down Google.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right?
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is? Like, what is it about the startup world that's so alluring to certain people?
I think it's the fast-paced, always learning, always doing something new. You're not just a cog in a wheel.
Right. You're building the plane while you're flying it.
Exactly. And some people really thrive in that kind of chaos.
They like the adrenaline.
Yeah. They like to be in the weeds figuring it out.
But then you've got Manohar, who, after years in the startup world, he found his piece at IBM.
He found his zen.
He found his zen, right.
Yeah.
And it was all about like that work-life balance, that stability.
Yeah. And the right manager, he really emphasized how important a good manager is.
And that is so true.
Oh, it can make or break your experience. Absolutely.
So it's like you can be at the coolest company in the world.
Yes.
But if you've got a crappy manager,
you're going to hate it.
It's going to be a miserable existence.
Every single day.
So it's like, how do you even begin to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, especially if you're early in your career,
Right.
you don't even know what you don't know,
You don't, and that's okay.
right?
That's part of the journey, figuring it out.
So what advice, like if you were talking to someone who's like right on the cusp of, graduating, or maybe they've been in the workforce for a year or two, and they're like, okay, startup versus big company, like help me, what would you tell them?
I think it really boils down to figuring out what you as a person, your personality, what you prioritize at this point in your life.
Okay.
What do you value most? Is it that rapid growth, that constant learning?
Yeah.
Even if it means longer hours, a little bit more chaos.
A little bit more uncertainty.
Uncertainty, absolutely.
Right, because startups, they could be gone tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, whereas, IBM's probably going to be around for a while.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, what are you optimizing for in this moment?
Right. Exactly. What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve?
And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just about being honest with yourself.
Absolutely.
About what you need and what you want, because those two things can be very different.
Absolutely. And they usually are. Yeah.
And they usually are.
Yeah. And I think being able to articulate that to yourself, what do I need from a company? What kind of environment do I thrive in?
Oh, that's such a good point.
Because you can go on Glassdoor, you can read all the reviews, but at the end of the day, it's about you.
It's about you as an individual.
And finding that right fit.
So we've talked about finding the right environment, startup versus big company. But there's this other thread that runs through all of these sources. And it's this idea that soft skills aren't just this nice to have anymore.
Oh, they're not.
They're table stakes.
They are 100%.
It's like that old saying, IQ gets you the interview, EQ gets you the job.
And keeps you the job.
And keeps you the job.
And gets you promoted and gets you the corner office.
It's so true.
It really is. It's all about how you work with other people, especially in this day and age.
And especially in tech, right, where it's so collaborative.
It's very collaborative. You're constantly working with designers, product managers, other engineers. Stakeholders, clients sometimes.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to communicate effectively.
And Pankuri from Google, she really hammered that home.
She did.
It's about being a team player. It's about taking initiative. It's about aligning yourself with the company's values.
Yes. Showing that you're there for more than just a paycheck.
It's about being the person that when people see your name on a meeting invite or whatever, they're like, yes, okay, cool, this can be good.
And exactly, this person's got this, or they're going to bring something to the table.
They're not going to be a pain in the ass, right?
Exactly.
Because, there are those people.
There are, unfortunately, we all know who they are.
But it's like, how do you cultivate that?
Right.
Because it's one thing to say oh yeah, I'm a team player. It's another thing to actually be that person that everyone wants on their team.
Right. It's almost like an aura.
Yeah.
You have to exude that energy, and I think it starts with your own self-awareness, right? How do you handle conflict? How do you handle stress? How do you treat people who are maybe, a little bit lower on the totem pole than you?
Are you the kind of person that people come to for help?
Exactly.
Or are you the kind of person that's like, that's not my job?
Right. Not my problem.
Right.
Talk to so-and-so.
Exactly. And I feel like that's something that you can't really teach that, right? Like technical skills, yeah, you can learn Python, you can learn Java.
Yeah, you can take a course.
But this attitude, this approach to work, this is something that...
It comes from within, yeah.
It's got to come from within.
And it's something you cultivate over time.
Right. It's about those little moments.
Yes.
How you react, how you respond. It's about how you show up every day.
It really is.
And it's funny because I feel like a lot of companies, especially now, they're almost looking for mini CEOs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Even at entry-level positions.
For sure.
They want people who are proactive, who are solution-oriented, who are going to take ownership.
They want someone who can think for themselves.
And not be micromanaged.
Yes, exactly.
And it reminded me of something Ans Human said. He's like, don't bring your boss problems. Bring them solutions.
Oh, I love that.
I wrote that down. I was like, that's it. That's the tweet. If you can be that person, you are indispensable.
And you know what's even better than bringing them solutions? Bringing them solutions before they even realize there's a problem.
No, you're talking next level.
That's how you become invaluable. That's how you become irreplaceable.
That's like chess. You're thinking 5 steps ahead.
Exactly. And that takes a certain kind of person, a certain kind of personality.
In a certain kind, I don't know, almost like a sixth sense.
It's like intuition. Yeah.
You can just sense where things are going, what the potential pitfalls are.
You're anticipating. You're not just reacting.
And you're always ready with a plan B and C and D.
Exactly. You're 3 steps ahead of the game.
Okay, so we've talked about skills, we've talked about mindset, But let's get down to brass tacks.
Okay, let's do it.
Salary negotiations.
Right.
Right.
It's
Because
anybody's favorite topic.
everyone wants to know, like, how do I get paid more?
Right. How do I get what I'm worth?
Exactly. And we heard two very distinct perspectives on this, which I think is really valuable because it's not one size fits all.
No, it depends.
It depends on your personality. It depends on your risk tolerance.
Your comfort level.
Your comfort level, exactly. So we've got Pankuri, who's coming from the recruiting side, and she's all about, don't give the first number, know your market rate, be willing to walk away.
Know your worth. Yes.
Know your worth, absolutely.
Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
And that can be scary, right?
It can be terrifying, especially when you're early in your career.
You're like, oh, I just want this job.
Please, just give me a chance.
I'll take anything.
Yeah.
But it's about knowing that you have value
You do.
and that you deserve to be compensated for that value.
Absolutely.
And then we have Ant Human, who's coming at it from the startup mentality. And he's very much like, skills are your currency.
Yes. Build your skills, and the money will follow.
Don't chase the inflated CTCs. Don't chase the hype. Chase the mastery.
That's it. That's the key.
And I love that because it's almost like two sides of the same coin.
It is, yeah.
You've got the negotiation tactics, like the actual, back and forth. But then you've got this underlying mindset.
The foundation.
Yes.
Mm.
And you need both.
You need both. Absolutely.
You need the confidence to advocate for yourself.
Yes.
But you also need that inner drive, that passion that's going to sustain you in the long run.
Because the money will come and go.
Exactly. The market goes up, the market goes down.
Exactly.
But your skills, those are transferable.
Those are yours. You own those.
So it's like, how do you become so good they can't ignore you?
Exactly.
And that, to me, is like the ultimate
goal.
The ultimate goal.
And you know what's so interesting about all of this? We're talking about skills, mindset, negotiation, but we haven't even touched on company culture yet.
Oh, yeah. And that's huge.
Yeah.
That's like a whole other rabbit hole.
It is, and it's something that came up again and again in these sources.
It's true. It's like people are realizing that it's not just about the work itself anymore.
No.
It's about where you're doing the work, who you're doing it with, and how that makes you feel.
Right. It's about finding a place where you can be yourself, where you feel valued.
Because, let's be real, we spend more time at work than we do with our family sometimes.
Unfortunately, sometimes, yeah.
So it better be a good experience, right?
It needs to be something that at least you don't dread every Monday morning.
And that's a low bar, honestly.
It is a low bar. But you know what? You'd be surprised how many people don't even clear that low bar.
That's true. That's true.
They're just, going through the motions, collecting a paycheck, waiting for Friday.
And that's no way to live.
No, it's not.
Life's too short to hate your job.
Exactly. You got to find something that at least you enjoy.
Or at least don't hate.
Yeah, or at least tolerate.
And I think that's what we're seeing, right? Especially with, the younger generations coming up.
They're not settling.
They're not settling.
They're not settling for just a paycheck. They want more.
They want purpose.
They want purpose. They want meaning. They want to feel like they're making a difference.
And they want to have fun.
And they want to have fun. Absolutely. Why not?
Work hard, play hard, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's about finding that balance, finding that company culture that aligns with your values.
Yes. And that's where the dating analogy comes in, right?
Oh, tell me more about that.
It's like you can have all the right qualifications on paper, right? You can have the skills, the experience, the education.
Check all the boxes.
All the boxes. But if the vibe is off, if you go on that interview and you're like,
something doesn't feel right.
Yeah, your gut is telling you this isn't the place for me, even if they offer you the job.
Even if they offer you the world.
Yeah, sometimes you have to walk away.
That's so hard, though.
It is hard, but it's better than being miserable for, however many years.
That's true.
So trust your gut. It's usually right.
Okay, so let's talk about that then, because we've got these two very different perspectives from our sources, right? We've got Ant Human, he's Mr. Startup, right? He's all about that move fast and break things mentality.
Right, tussle.
Open communication, flat hierarchies, everyone wearing multiple hats.
Yeah, that's the startup life.
And then you've got Manohar, who found his groove at IBM.
Right. A little bit more structure.
A little bit more structure, a little bit more, I don't want to say corporate, but, established.
Yeah, I like that.
Right, they've got processes in place. They've got, a career ladder.
Mentorship programs,
All that good stuff.
And for him, that was important. That was what he was looking for.
And that's okay, right? Like, neither one is better than the other. It's just about finding what works for you.
Exactly. It's about knowing yourself and what you need to thrive in a work environment.
Because some people, they thrive in chaos.
They do.
They're like, give me all the fires, I'll put them out.
I'm a firefighter.
Exactly. And then other people are like, no, I need my, my neatly organized desk. I need to know what's happening.
Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Don't micromanage me, but also tell me what to do.
Exactly.
It's about finding that balance, right?
It is. It's about finding that sweet spot.
And I think the key takeaway here, and I really want to emphasize this, is that it's okay to not know.
It's okay to not have all the answers.
Especially when you're starting out, right?
Absolutely. Be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself, give yourself grace, and just, explore.
Explore, ask questions, talk to people.
Talk to people. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who are maybe a few steps ahead of you.
Mentors are everywhere. You just got to ask.
Because you never know. That conversation could spark something.
Absolutely.
It could open a door.
It could be life-changing. You never know.
So as we kind of wrap up this section on company culture, if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I need to figure this out, what are some questions that people can ask either in an interview or even just like, if they're networking to kind of get a better sense of what the company culture is really like?
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, let me think.
Because it's hard, right?
It is, because a lot of companies will say, oh yeah, we have a great company culture, but what does that even mean?
Right, it's so nebulous.
Exactly, it's so vague, so you have to dig deeper.
So what are some questions that can cut through the BS?
Okay, so one of my favorites is, can you tell me about a time when the company values were really put to the test?
Ooh, I like that.
Because that will force them to give you a specific example.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, we're innovative.
Exactly. They have to actually tell you a story. And you can get a sense from that story, like, does that resonate with me? Does that feel authentic?
That's good. Okay, what else?
Another one is, ask about their approach to work-life balance.
Okay.
Don't just ask, what's your work-life balance like? Because, again, they'll give you some generic answer.
We value work-life balance.
Right. We have unlimited PTO. But ask them, can you tell me about a time when you felt like you had to work late or on a weekend? And how did the company support you during that time?
Ooh, that's good because, again, it's forcing them to get specific.
Exactly.
And it's showing that you're not just looking for a job. You're looking for a lifestyle.
You're looking for a place where you can thrive.
Okay. Any other questions that come to mind?
Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Ask about their professional development programs.
Okay.
Because that will tell you how much they value their employees' growth.
Are they invested in their employees?
Exactly. Are they willing to invest in your future? Or are they just looking for someone to come in and do the job and that's it?
So you can ask something like, what opportunities are there for me to learn and grow within the company?
Exactly. What kind of training programs do you offer? Do you offer any tuition reimbursement? What about mentorship opportunities?
And I think the key takeaway here is that it's a two-way street.
It is.
You are interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Advocate for yourself and find a company culture that feels like a good fit.
You're going to be spending a lot of time there.
You are. And life is too short to be miserable.
Amen to that.
All right, so we've talked about a lot, but there's one more crucial piece to this whole Indian IT job market puzzle that we need to address.
Okay, hit me with it.
Remote work.
Ah, yes. The double-edged sword of the 21st century.
Exactly. Because on the one hand, it's opened up so many opportunities, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's a game changer for so many people.
You can work from anywhere in the world.
Anywhere with a decent internet connection, that is.
Right, but that's becoming more and more common.
It is, and that's a good thing.
It is, especially for people in India who, maybe they're in a smaller town. They don't want to move to Bangalore or Hyderabad.
Right, or they have family obligations.
Exactly. It gives them the flexibility to have a global career without having to uproot their lives.
And it levels the playing field in a way, right? Because now you're not competing with just people in your city or even your country.
You're competing with the world.
Exactly. Which can be intimidating.
Oh, absolutely.
But it can also be incredibly motivating.
It can push you to be better.
Exactly, to up your game.
But there's a flip side to this whole remote work thing, right?
There is. There's always a catch.
There's always a catch.
What's the trade-off here?
Right. So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing, especially in the Indian IT market, with this rise of remote work?
Well, one of the big ones is that it can be harder to build relationships with colleagues.
Oh, absolutely, because you're not bumping into each other at the coffee machine.
Exactly. You're not having those water cooler moments, those impromptu brainstorming sessions.
And those are so important for creativity, for innovation.
They really are, because sometimes the best ideas come from those unplanned interactions.
And it's hard to replicate that virtually.
It is. You can do Zoom calls, you can do virtual coffee breaks, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. And I think that's something that companies are still trying to figure out. Like, how do you foster that sense of community, that sense of belonging when everyone's remote?
Right, because at the end of the day, we're social creatures. We crave that connection.
We do. And I think especially for younger generations who are used to being constantly connected, it can be isolating to be working from home all the time.
It can, and it's something to be mindful of, especially if you're managing a team.
So what advice would you give to managers who are leading remote teams, especially in the Indian IT context?
I would say over-communicate, like more than you think you need to, because you don't have those in-person cues, those body language cues, so it's easy for things to get lost in translation.
Right, so be explicit.
Be explicit, be clear, be concise, and be consistent.
Okay, what else?
I would also say make an effort to build relationships with your team members on a personal level.
Okay, so like virtual coffee breaks, virtual team building activities.
Exactly. Anything you can do to get to know them as people, not just as colleagues.
And that takes time and effort, right?
It does, but it's worth it because when you have strong relationships with your team members, it makes it so much easier to navigate the challenges of remote work.
And I think that's something that's often overlooked, right? People think, oh, remote work, it's going to be so much easier. I can just sit in my pajamas all day and work.
Right, no commute.
But it takes a different kind of effort. It takes a different kind of discipline.
It does. It requires a lot of self-motivation, self-discipline.
And communication, like you said, over-communication is key.
It's crucial, absolutely crucial.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here today. But before we wrap up this episode, I want to circle back to something you said earlier about the importance of specialization.
Yes, finding your niche.
Finding your niche, becoming that big fish in a small pond.
Exactly. It's not enough to be a jack of all trades anymore.
Right, you have to be a master of something.
You have to be the go-to person for something specific.
So if someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I get it, I need to specialize, but how do I even begin to figure out what that is?
Right, that's the million-dollar question.
Right, like what advice would you give them?
I would say start by looking at your strengths. What are you naturally good at?
Okay.
What do you enjoy doing? What do you get lost in?
What are you passionate about?
Exactly, because passion is contagious and it will show in your work.
And it makes the work more enjoyable, right?
Absolutely. If you're passionate about something, you're more likely to put in the extra effort, the extra hours, without it feeling like work.
Right, it becomes fun.
Exactly. It becomes something you look forward to.
So once you've identified your strengths and your passions, what's next?
Then it's about doing your research, see what's in demand in the market.
Okay.
Look at job postings, see what skills are being requested.
Talk to people in the industry.
Exactly. Network, network, network.
Because you never know. That conversation could spark an idea.
It could. It could be the missing piece of the puzzle.
And then once you've kind of narrowed it down, what's the next step?
Then it's about taking action. Start building your skills in that area.
Okay.
Take courses, read books, attend workshops, do some projects, build your portfolio, get your hands dirty.
It's about showing, not just telling, right?
Exactly.
Because anybody can say, oh, I'm an expert in, machine learning. But if you've got a GitHub repo with like a bunch of cool machine learning projects that you've worked on.
Yeah, that speaks volumes.
That speaks for itself, right?
Absolutely. And it shows that you're passionate about it.
It also shows that you can actually finish what you start.
Oh, that's a good point, because a lot of people, they start projects and then they fizzle out.
They get distracted by the next shiny object.
Exactly. But employers, they're looking for people who can see things through to completion.
They want to know that if they give you a task, you're not going to abandon it halfway through.
Exactly. They want to see that you have that stick-to-itiveness, that grit.
And that's something that you can really demonstrate through those personal projects.
It's like a window into your work ethic.
Okay, so you've found your niche, you're building your skills, you're working on projects. What else can people do to really stand out in this competitive IT job market?
Networking, networking, networking.
I knew you were going to say that.
Of course. It's so important. And it's not just about attending events and collecting business cards.
Like about building genuine relationships, right?
Exactly. It's about connecting with people who are doing interesting things, learning from them, sharing your own experiences.
Is it always about what you know? It's about who you know.
Sometimes it's about who knows you.
Exactly. And that's where networking comes in, because you never know where your next opportunity might come from.
It could be from a former colleague, a friend of a friend, someone you met at a conference.
Or even someone you met online.
Oh, absolutely. Social media is a powerful networking tool.
But it's about being strategic, right?
Exactly. You don't want to just be spamming people with your resume.
No one likes that.
No, it's all about building relationships, adding value, and being genuinely interested in other people.
So how can people network effectively? Give us some tips.
Okay, so first of all, start with your existing network.
Okay.
Reach out to former classmates, colleagues, friends, family. See if they know anyone who's working in the industry.
And don't be afraid to ask for introductions.
Exactly. People are usually happy to help, especially if you're clear about what you're looking for.
And if they can't help you directly, they might know someone who can.
Exactly. It's all about expanding your circle.
Okay, so you've tapped into your existing network. What's next?
Then it's time to start attending industry events.
Conferences, meetups, workshops.
Exactly. And don't just go there to listen.
Go there to connect.
Yes. Talk to people, ask questions, share your own insights.
And follow up afterwards.
Oh, that's so important because people meet so many people at these events, it's easy to forget.
So send a quick email or LinkedIn message reminding them who you are and what you talked about.
And if you promise to send them something, like an article or a contact, do it.
Be reliable, be memorable.
Exactly. Make a lasting impression.
Okay, so you've tapped into your existing network, you're attending events. What else can people do to really up their networking game?
Get active on social media.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the usual suspects.
Exactly. But again, it's about being strategic.
Don't just scroll and like.
No, engage. Share your thoughts. Comment on other people's posts. Start conversation.
And connect with people who are doing interesting things.
Exactly. Follow thought leaders, industry experts, recruiters.
And don't be afraid to reach out.
No, send them a message. Tell them why you admire their work. Ask them a question.
People love to talk about themselves.
They do, and you never know. That could be the start of a valuable relationship.
All right, so we've talked about specialization, networking. What other advice do you have for people who are looking to level up their IT careers?
Be patient.
Oh, that's a good one. Because I feel like in the tech world, everything moves so fast.
It does, and it's easy to get caught up in the hype, to feel like you're falling behind.
Especially when you're seeing all those people on LinkedIn getting promoted and landing dream jobs.
Exactly, but remember, everyone's journey is different.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
It really is. So focus on your own path, your own goals, and be patient.
Good things take time.
They do. They really do.
And don't be afraid to celebrate the small wins along the way.
Yes. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small.
Because those small wins, they add up to big victories.
They do, and they keep you motivated.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot today, but before we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, hit me with it.
With all this talk about automation, about competition from other countries, about the need for specialization, it can feel overwhelming.
It can. It can definitely feel like the odds are stacked against you.
But here's the thing.
What's the silver lining?
The Indian IT industry is still going strong.
It is. It's still a global powerhouse.
And there are still tons of opportunities out there for talented, ambitious people.
You just have to know where to look.
And you have to be willing to put in the work.
Because nothing worth having comes easy.
So if you're listening to this and you're feeling inspired, don't let anything hold you back.
Go out there and chase your dream.
Exactly, because the future of IT is waiting to be written.
And you have the power to write it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Sounds good to me. It's about finding the right company, the right team, the right manager.
Yeah, it's like finding your tribe, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where you feel like you belong, where you can be yourself, where your work is valued.
And we've heard such different perspectives on this, which I think is so valuable, right? Because there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Not at all.
We've got Ann Human, who's all about that startup life.
Right. The hustle, the chaos.
The open communication, the flat hierarchy.
Wearing multiple hats.
Exactly. And then you've got Manohar, who found his zen at IBM.
Right. More structure, more stability.
More support, a clear career path.
Which is important to some people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's about figuring out what do you need to thrive.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask about that during the interview process.
Oh, that's such a good point.
Ask about their values, their approach to work-life balance.
What's the company culture really like?
Exactly. Don't be afraid to dig deep because it's a two-way street.
It is. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
Exactly.
So we've covered so much ground today, but if there's one thing that I really want our listeners to take away from this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's that the Indian IT job market is evolving, right? It's more competitive than ever,
Absolutely.
but it's also full of opportunity.
More than ever before.
So if you're willing to put in the work,
To learn, to grow, to adapt,
to find your niche, to build your network,
and to never stop learning.
the sky's the limit.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive.
Let's do it.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
See you next time.
And remember, stay curious.